Hello, Fuse Nation. Once again, my name is Alex Fuse. Thank you for joining me on this episode 198 of Sports Fusion. On the phone now, he is a reporter for DetroitNews.com, Tony Paul. So, Tony, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, very good. Thanks for having me out.
Yeah, no problem. So, let's talk some Detroit Tiger baseball. Jordan Zimmermann is back on the DL. What is next for the slowly declining, it seems like, Jordan Zimmermann?
Well, he's certainly had an injury-plagued year, and it's been a little bit disappointing with the Tigers. He got off to a great start. They signed him for a 5-year, $110 million contract this offseason. There was some concern over that deal because his velocity's dipped on the fastball over the last couple of years, but he came out of the chute this year really pitching well. Was one probably the best starting pitcher in the American League for the first month and a half of the season. Then he suffered a groin injury. And really, since that groin injury, he hasn't been very good. His ERA has been over 6. He's only had a couple quality starts. He had the neck injury, and then he came back from the DL, and right away had a side muscle injury. They just can't seem to get him right. And you can tell the velocity's not there, the movement's not there, and it's been a struggle for him. And it's been a big void for the Tigers' rotation. Especially now when Tigers have clawed their way back into the playoff hunt, not far out of the AL Central race, and they're actually in the second wild card position.
Oh, yeah.
And now they gotta find a way to make up for him and his loss. So it's been a tough year for him. I'm not sure to necessarily write him off because when he was before the groin injury this year, he was pretty good and made some good starts, but it's definitely been a struggle for him.
Yeah, definitely. Where do you see this Tiger team going in the next few weeks, going into the playoffs?
Well, they've done a pretty miraculous job, I think, getting back into position to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
They still have a long way to go. They're still 2 games out of the AL Central. They're in the second wild card situation, but only by a half game. They've got a long way to go, and the injuries aren't helping matters. Of course, Jordan Zimmermann.
Right.
With Jordan Zimmermann out now, the Tigers are going to have to go a significant stretch of time relying on 3 rookies in their rotation. Michael Fulmer's obviously been awesome and is probably one of the leading candidates for American League Rookie of the Year. But now they gotta get Matt Boyd more starts. He's been serviceable, better than I expected, but still not a shutdown guy, not a guy who's going to go typically 7 or 8 innings. And then they're calling up Daniel Morris, who's got good stuff, but he's also had some injury issues this year as well. 3 rookies are in that rotation. They lost Nick Castellanos for over a month with a fracture in his hand. So they have to, kind of patchwork that situation with Casey McGee, a veteran in that third, but, a guy who his best years are probably behind him. They got some issues, but the lineup's still strong. The top of the rotation, Verlander and Fulmer, is still strong. The bullpen's been a plus. They're playing good baseball. So you never know. The Indians, their rotation's starting to show a few cracks in its very young rotation.
Yeah.
So we'll see, but it'll be a pretty impressive season, I think, if the Tigers make the playoffs this year.
Yeah. Is it surprising to you to see this Tigers team in a playoff hunt after basically saying last year we're in rebuilding mode, we're in a transition mode, and is it surprising to you to see the Tigers back in the playoffs the next year, which I think the Yankees are going to be in the same boat, like they just got rid of the top players there this year, and then next year they'll be back like the Tigers like they are this year. Is it surprising to you to see the Tigers do that?
Not really, because I never really thought that the Tigers were in total rebuild mode when they made those deals last summer. I think that they've been buyers at most trade deadlines, and over the last really since 2006, since they've been in contention pretty regularly. But last year they had to take a hard look at the situation. They could have bought theoretically. But it would have continued to hurt a payroll that still needs to get a little bit under control, and they just didn't have it last year. And you could sense it; they just didn't have enough. Even if they snuck in the playoffs as a wild card, I don't think anybody thought they had enough. The bullpen was in shambles. Miggy, Verlander, and Victor were just not themselves health-wise. They just didn't have enough. So they took stock of the situation. They were in a seller's market last year. They had 3 prime free agents to be in David Price, Jonas Cespedes, and Joaquin Soria. They weren't going to sign all 3. They'd be lucky if they were going to sign one of them. So they realized that they had a good chance to reload rather than rebuild and get some guys who were pretty close to Major League ready. And they did a pretty fine job in getting Michael Fulmer over from the Mets in the Cespedes deal, They got Daniel Norris, Matt Boyd over from the Blue Jays in the David Price deal, and they got Jacoby Jones, this young center fielder, over from the Pirates in the Joaquin Soria deal, and he's had a pretty good year this year, showing a lot of pop at the minor league level. So they were able to get guys who were very close to major league ready. Get some youth into this roster, and hope you can get your big guns healthy, which for the most part this year, Big E, Victor, and JB have been healthy and have been pretty good.
Definitely.
And and when you have an owner like Illich who's up there in years, as long as Mike Illich is owning this team, they're going to continue to spend money, and they did that this offseason, obviously, with Justin Upton and with some other additions. So I never really thought they were rebuilding. I think they were reloading. I think eventually, as Victor and Miggy and Verlander continue to age, they will rebuild. But I don't anticipate that that's going to be in the next year or so.
Okay, yeah. So I want to ask you, we'll switch gears to the Yankees. Okay, so Alex Rodriguez yesterday had a press conference at 11 a.m., and the Yankees kind of said, look, this is the end of the A-Rod era come next Friday, and we're going to pay you. We're going to make you work for that $20 million next year as a team assistant, basically. And so, Tony, what do you think about the whole situation with A-Rod and the Yankees right now, by the Yankees kind of just kindly getting rid of Alex Rodriguez for the rest of the contract?
Yeah, I think it was past time for A-Rod to go. It's with just a little over a year on the contract. If you're not going to play him, and I mean, they didn't even play him against Bartolo Colon the other day when he's got an OPS of 1.8 or something ridiculous against Bartolo Colon. If you're not going to play him in those situations, I mean, you're not going to play him in third, and and the Yankees are rebuilding, or getting younger anyway. They're in a situation where they can get rid of some contracts. I think it was past time for A-Rod. He's clearly a shell of the player that he used to be. It still wouldn't surprise me if some team, picked him up for, the major league minimum or whatever, and used him, get some at bats or whatever. I mean, he still has a little bit of power, more power than, some guys that are actually getting playing time with the Yankees. But it was time. That situation had run its course. The Yankees aren't contending this year. They've done a nice job unloading some pieces for some good young talent. They moved on from Beltran, they're moving on from Teixeira, they're moving on from A-Rod, they'll soon move on from Sabathia. They've got I think they're gearing up honestly for Bryce Harper in a couple off seasons. They're trying to get the books in order so that they can sign Bryce Harper. But the A-Rod situation, it was good for the tabloids in New York, but the time has come for sure.
Okay, Tony, I want to say thank you for taking the time to come on today's episode of Sports Fusion.
All right. Well, hey, thanks for having me on anytime.
Yeah, no problem. Have a good day.
All right. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, Feuzion, you just heard it from Tony Paul, the writer at DetroitNews.com. He had some words to say about the upcoming few months of the Tigers baseball team and what to expect with them in the next few years. Also, he weighed in on his opinion about Alex Rodriguez's situation with the New York Yankees. Also, I haven't done a show since last Friday, and last Friday the Yankees and Mark Teixeira announced that he will be retiring at the end of the season. So Mark Teixeira and Alex Rodriguez will not be a part of the 2017 New York Yankees next year, and Alex Rodriguez will be gone as of next Friday. His last game is then. So a lot of big news with the Yankees, getting rid of the older guys and being a younger team. I think this is what the Yankees needed for the past 5 years. They haven't really been a playoff contending team since 2013, so it's a really good transition year for the New York Yankees. They got a lot of great pieces in the trades, and it's going to be a great young New York Yankee team, it seems like, next year and even in the next few months. Thank you, Feuzion. Join me in about 20 or 19 minutes with the Seattle Mariners play-by-play guy, Dave Sims. So big show coming up live next. Thank you for watching.